the book of Daniel, chapter 1 in the King James Version. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning and knowledge, and understanding, science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. He gave unto Daniel the name Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah Abednego. But Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse, liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Malzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat, and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the 1st year of King Cyrus. Okay, so there's a lot here just in the beginning, giving us a little bit of background and understanding. So if you want to read the ending portion of 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, you can kind of get a sense of and an understanding where this time is and what was going on during this time. This is right as the people were being sent to Babylon. They were being removed from the promised land that they were in because they had not followed the Lord, and they were being exiled. They were going into exile. And so, as well as a lot of things that were said and even thought about even today, there's a lot of Bible scholars and such that believe that Daniel, as well as his friends, could have became eunuchs as well, but it doesn't necessarily say that because of what the king was looking for to be in his court. Whenever they would conquer, they would look for people that were intelligent, could be relied on for information, whether it be of the new lands that were conquered, whether it be of trade, whether it be of whatever it may be. These were people to bring in and associate with his upper court, so that way they can obtain additional information and knowledge and keep that knowledge within the power of the kingdom, within the power of the kingship. And so, for instance, in verse 4, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach to the learning in the tongue of the Chaldeans. So these were just people that they sought and saw from whom they've conquered to bring into teach so that they could communicate with the king himself in the Babylonian language. And so there's a lot here, sermon upon sermon, but listen to this. It starts off in verse 10. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink, for why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. So what had happened was Daniel had asked not to partake in what they were given by the king, and that's in verse 8. But Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So he just wanted some basic like water and some fruit and vegetables, and that's basically what he received. But because the Lord was with him, because his faith, he believed in the Lord was with him. And of these times, of these places, remember, this is a conquered land, these are conquered people, and the nerve for Daniel to ask anything, and yet he was able to ask that the person who was overseeing them for himself and his friends not to partake in what the king had set aside for them, and only just give him water and some rations, the rations of fruit and vegetables, things that they could that were not of the king's typical food rounds that they had. And so the overseer was kind of a little scared, because that also included his own life during this time. This was serious. Things that went wrong, it was some unaliving, it was some things that were happening if you failed to do your job or your duty, or you seemed to be going against or not presenting what you were requested to present. So it was very much so of the livelihood of even the overseer. And so with the Lord being with him, and there was a softening of this overseer's heart to allow for Daniel to do this with his friends of 10 days. He gave him a time frame. And during that time frame, in verse 14, so he consented to them in this matter and proved them 10 days. So what happened at the end of the 10 days? And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat, which means that they looked well, they looked healthy, they looked good, they were being able to do things and present themselves in a way that the other people, the other men that were considered to be potentials in the king's consortium of court for information, weren't looking so good. They were looking very dowdy. Being as it is, and I know when this is recorded and what time of the year this is going to show, 2-3 weeks into the year. Let's bring past to present. How are those New Year things going. It's the new year, and at the beginning of the year, it's really popular, even to this day, even to this moment, to start something new, start something fresh, start on something of the new year. How's that going? Now take a moment to think about the things that the Lord placed into your life. How are those things going? Bring in a moment in your life. Take a moment, whether you want to write these things down or just take a moment to think about these things, on the things that we typically plan compared to what the Lord's plans are. Which one still continues on? Which one is for our benefit? Which one has failed? Which one has ceased to exist or stopped already? When it's of the Lord, it is good, it is right, it's just, and it will continue. But when it's of us, when it's of man, when it's of the flesh, it's set to fail. Here's Daniel, a prime example of something that we can take a look at. He had the faith. He had the faith in the Lord, his God, our God, and he believed that these things that they were seeing were not for them. And that was this food from the king. And it was not just not for them, but it was a distraction. It was something that would pull them away from what they believed in their spiritual walk with the Lord. And they held to it to the point where they said, they even bargained. They said, allow for us to do 10 days of this. And then it was given to them. So they asked a question out of a time where it was very difficult to do so. Out of those hard times comes the Spirit of the Lord right on in when we have faith to give us and provide us those answers. And then when that time frame lapsed, it exceeded expectations. Daniel and his friends looked the part, looked like they were ready, like they were good, that they were ready to go, that they were knowledgeable, that they understood even in that short amount of time the things that it took to be within the king's court and continue on through that time frame. They exceeded abundantly well. Why? Because they had faith. Each one of them had faith in the Lord. They believed that the Lord, even though they were in these circumstances, that the Lord was still with them. That the Lord, even though that they were doing these things, that they were in exile, was still protecting them, was still being the good shepherd and going before them. And it was proven time and time again, as we will see, that that is the case. So think about it. Think about your New Year's resolutions and see how far they go or how far they've gotten, and see where the Lord's resolutions come into play. Before we go on, though, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind when you read over this? How does it make you feel and what does it make you think?